What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, YouTube exclusive early look at Week 11 lines. I'm Will Brinson. Joining me, Ryan Wilson. Let me try to get it. Ryan Wilson, Sean Wagner, the magic of television. There you go. You can only watch this on YouTube, which you were doing right now. If you like what we do, and why wouldn't you, go check out our podcast on Apple Podcasts, the Pick Six Podcast, 8 episodes a week, including our Sunday night recap where we break down every single game in borderline exhausting fashion. First up for next week, Steelers at Browns, Thursday night football. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the number 6 seed in the AFC right now. It's insane, and they're traveling on the road to play Baker Mayfield and the Browns, who just managed to beat the Bills in a last minute game-winning drive by Baker. Over under 40.5. Browns -3. Ryan, your thoughts?
Brinson, you sort of predicted that the Steelers were going to get hot. I don't believe you. I'm starting to come around, which means they'll probably lose out. But everything is gravy at this point after Ben Roethlisberger went down. Mason Rudolph continues to get more involved in the offense. The defense is what the real story is. They took over again on Sunday against the Rams, absolutely shut down the Rams offense, which was without much of an offensive line. All that said, I like the Steelers going into Cleveland because usually the Browns are going to Browns. I like them to cover, obviously. I'm a little concerned about the over. I think the under is probably more than likely given that the offense hasn't really done a lot, and the only real points that the Steelers are getting is through their defense, namely Minkah Fitzpatrick. But I don't expect the Browns to continue their one-game winning streak. You could make a good case that they should have lost to the Bills. It didn't happen. Found a way to win. Freddie Kitchens is good for a week, but I think Freddie Kitchens is going to Freddie Kitchens it up, and I like the Steelers to win that game, to cover, and I also like the under.
Yeah, it brings me no joy to say this because Ryan, even though he claims to be our friend, does like to see our own teams lose. So I hate that I have to take the Steelers in this spot and hope that, Ryan ends up being a happy person next week. But I do have to take the Steelers. For me, this comes down to Baker Mayfield against the Steelers defense. It's the Steelers defense that is really opportunistic. We saw them really destroy the Rams offense in terms of interceptions, fumbles. They had 3 interceptions, forced 4 fumbles. Baker Mayfield came into this past week tied for the league lead in interceptions. Now, he didn't throw an interception against Buffalo, but if you watch that game, you know that he had at least 2 turnover-worthy plays. Got lucky that they did not get caught by that Bills defense. I can't take a guy who turns the ball over that much against the Steelers defense. Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think, should be in the Defensive Player of the Year race, along with Watt. So I like the Steelers to win in this game. I'm a little bit scared about the under just because I'm afraid of all these turnovers Baker Mayfield might have. I think the Steelers defense could get in on the action in terms of scoring.
The thing that drives me nuts about the Browns, and I predicted that they would beat the Bills and cover, and they covered 2.5. If you got it later in the week, they didn't cover. But I said the one thing that concerned me about that game was that they might try to force feed balls to Odell Beckham, and they did just that. He had 12 targets, only 5 catches. There's still a squeaky wheel factor here. I think they will try and get the ball to Odell Beckham a lot, and I don't think that's a good idea. They should try to run Nick Chubb and try to grind out a low-scoring win over the Steelers. It's a huge game for the Browns if they want to get back into it, but I bet this immediately at Steelers +3. I want the points if I'm taking Pittsburgh, and I want the full 3 points. It's already moved to 2.5. So if you can get it at 3, I would go ahead and do that. I would expect it's closer to a pick'em. Steelers offense isn't very good. That defense is playing lights out. And look, Ryan's going to give me credit. I'll give him credit too. The Minkah Fitzpatrick trade looks good right now. So credit to you, Ryan, for blindly suggesting it was a smart move and then accidentally ending up being right. Texans at the Ravens. Ravens -4.5. This game is so exciting. Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. Over-under is 50. Sean, what do you think about this game featuring Lamar's quick twisting ways and Deshaun off the bye?
Yeah, so obviously we both know about the quarterbacks. I would say right now they're probably second and third, only behind Russell Wilson in the MVP race. They seem to be the only 2 guys that have a legitimate shot to unseat Wilson, who's been the front runner for a few weeks now. The reason I like the Ravens in this game, I think the quarterbacks are a bit of a wash. They've both been playing lights out, but I like the Ravens defense, and I think they've actually been coming alive in the last couple of weeks. Coming into the season, we were really concerned about their pass rush. We were concerned if Earl Thomas was going to be the same player that he was in Seattle for most of his career. And if you look at their last couple games, look, they held the Patriots at 20 points. A couple weeks ago, they held the Seahawks at 16 points. They obviously had their way against the Bengals and forced 7 turnovers in their last 3 games. So that's why I like the Ravens in this, because I like their defense a little bit better. Don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I just think the Ravens have a little bit of an edge defensively, and that's why I lean them in this one.
I'll start with the over, which is 50. The Ravens scored 49 points against the Bengals all by themselves. Yes, this Bengals team is truly terrible. Yes, the Texans aren't the Bengals, but it just goes to show you how high-powered this offense is, whether they're running the ball, whether we see Lamar Jackson throwing the ball. And I'll just say one thing, and sort of off of what Sean just said. Russell Wilson right now may not be the number one MVP. Right now, my number one is Lamar Jackson. I think Deshaun Watson can certainly make his case if he comes out firing. I like the over a lot. I think this game is going to be really close, closer than it was Patriots-Ravens. And it's because the Texans have had a week off. That pass rush isn't great for the Ravens. And if you protect Deshaun Watson, he will light you up. So I think it's going to be close. I think the Ravens will win, but I think the Texans will cover, and I love the over.
I'm with you. Bet the over as soon as it came out. 50's too low. This should be more like 53 or 54. I understand that they're teams that, they tend to kind of grind things out a little bit. Baltimore's explosive, but they're willing to run the ball effectively. But we saw that game against New England go way over, right? We saw their game against Cincinnati go way over, the 44. This is a pretty high total for a Ravens game, but I love the over. I think you'll see Deshaun Watson make enough plays. The Ravens secondary, I agree with Sean, has gotten a lot better. They've actually scored points in their last scored a defensive touchdown in each of their last 2 weeks. So they are doing some damage there. I don't know which way I would lean on the spread here right now. I would probably take the points with Houston because I think Deshaun Watson could storm in the back door. Like, you trust him to be able to score a late touchdown. And I don't want to fade him with more than a touchdown. But my lean, I'm with Ryan here, would certainly be to the over. Patriots, mentioned them, -3.5 at the Eagles, over under 45. New England gets to play a good football team for the second time all season. Going to Philadelphia, Ryan, your thoughts on this one?
It's going to be interesting. You look at the game and your initial reaction as well. The Patriots are going to roll because the Eagles have struggled defensively. Everyone's injured. Offensively, they've been up and down. They're about replacement level according to Football Outsiders. But the last 2 times Doug Peterson has faced Bill Belichick, Doug Peterson has won. The previous 4 times under Andy Reid and Chip Kelly, those games went to Bill Belichick. So Doug Peterson's still there. Carson Wentz is still there. Unfortunately, Nick Foles isn't still there. That would probably help as well. But I think this game is going to be closer than maybe what you get upon first appearances. I don't think the Eagles are going to win, but I think they're going to keep it close. I think they're going to cover. I'm not sure about the over-under because I don't know what to expect from the Eagles' defense. I don't know what to expect from the Patriots' offense, which has been fits and starts in terms of how they played in terms of consistency. But like the Patriots to win, Eagles to cover. That's as far as I'm willing to go right now.
Yeah, I think I'm with Ryan on the Patriots winning, but I don't know if I want more than a field goal on the road. What I really like is the under, because we know this Patriots defense is probably the league's best defense, I would say, by a decent margin. And I know they just got torn up by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. The thing is, they're not going to have to play teams like Lamar Jackson and the Ravens because there's only one of those teams. And the Eagles, while they have a good offense, they have a good coach, they have a good quarterback, they have a good offensive line, they're not going to present the same problems that the Ravens presented a week ago to the Patriots. And then you look at the other side of the ball. We've talked about this Eagles defense struggling, particularly in the secondary. You still look at the rankings, and they came into this past week still 10th in DVOA overall, 16th against the pass. And that's even when we've been spending, weeks and weeks talking about how bad the secondary is. They're actually not that bad. At least that's what the stats bear out. And then you look at what the Patriots offensively, they've been very pedestrian, and they are really struggling up front. And I think if you look at the Eagles defense, where's their strength? I think it's up front. So I think they can get after Brady. I think they can bother him. I think it's a low-scoring field goal type of game. So I would take the Eagles to cover, Patriots to win, and I like the under as well.
I think that at first glance, the thing that stands out to me is you get a 3.5-point home dog. That's it, like a competitive team and a smart, you got a smart coach who, as Ryan points out, has beaten Bill Belichick. You've got a good quarterback. You have dangerous weapons. Miles Sanders coming along in the running game, or the passing game through the run, and also broke off a big one the other day. At the same time, I just have no interest in fading Bill Belichick ever, except in that spot in Baltimore. Certainly not coming off a loss. Certainly not coming off his bye. No, thank you. I will not be fading Bill Belichick. If anything, I would probably lay the 3.5 because it's a short number for the Patriots. I need to dig in a little bit more on the stats of the Patriots in terms of what they do in these short spots. But that would be my initial lean. And yeah, I think if you think the Eagles will win, it probably goes over. And if you think the Patriots will win, it probably goes under. So I think that is the direction that you would want to head with that. Jaguars at Colts. Wow, what a great game. Colts just lost to the Miami Dolphins at home. A disastrous loss for Brian Hoyer. We got to see no Swag Kelly. Shaking my head here. And we had to deal with Brian Hoyer failing to throw short. He threw short of the sticks on a freaking fourth down in the red zone. Colts -3, a surprisingly low number. Over under 44. It's possible that we're waiting. We need to see what's the deal with Jacoby Brissett is here. I would assume if he plays, it moves up a little bit, Sean.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really not sure which way I'm going on this because, look, I actually watched, unfortunately, most of this Colts-Dolphins game, and I think it was one of the worst games of the season. And look, I'm a Bears fan. I've watched a lot of really bad football this year. This was saying something that almost put me to sleep. If Hoyer's playing, I love the Jaguars in this game because Hoyer was terrible. A week ago, we were wondering, at least I was wondering on the podcast, Hoyer actually played pretty well a week ago. Was Jacoby Brissett, was his success more about Frank Reich then? If Frank Reich could get the most out of Hoyer? I think since Sunday was an emphatic answer that no, it's actually about Jacoby Brissett as well. So if Brissett plays, I don't think I would take the Jags. I think I would just stay away from this game. You have the wild card factor of Nick Foles coming back, and Nick Foles is a very hard quarterback to predict. He might come out and might throw 3 touchdowns. He also might come out and look like the Nick Foles he looked through the beginning portion of his career. So I don't know if I really have a lean on this game. I will say this though, I'm not really sure the Colts are a good football team. And they've been certainly masquerading as a good football team, battling for the top spot in the AFC South. If you look at now, I believe they have a point differential +1. You look at a lot of their wins, 2 points over the Titans, 3 points over the Falcons, 2 points over the Broncos. They look like a team that is a coin flip in every single game. We also saw them get dominated by the Raiders a couple weeks ago. So I'm definitely not touching the Colts in this game. But if Brian Hoyer's playing, I think I love the Jaguars.
It doesn't matter who the Colts quarterback is. I am all in on the Jaguars winning that football game. 2 words, Nick Foles. When is Nick Foles at his best? When he plays 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 games a season, he goes off. That's the perfect time frame to roll him out there. Backup plan, breaking case of emergency, Gardner Minshew. You won't need him. I expect big things from Nick Foles. Not so big that they'll get the over, but I expect they'll win. Sean's exactly right. If Brian Hoyer's out there, it's an easy pick on the Jaguars. But even if we see Jacoby Brissett come back, we don't know how healthy his knee is going to be. He was certainly hobbled last week, didn't play this week. So we'll see. But I love the Jags because of Nick Foles.
Yeah, look, I think the Nick Foles factor helps a lot. If it's Foles versus Brissett, maybe I'd be more interested in the Colts. I do think though that this is a little bit inflated based on what we saw this week. You lose to the Dolphins, and people are gonna hurt. They're gonna knock your freaking line down. I mean, that's just the reality of it. The Jaguars 2-1 off a bye since under Doug Marrone since he took over. Their only loss was last year, a 3-point loss at Indianapolis. So we'll see. Frank Reich versus Doug Marrone. I would take Reich, but I think Marrone is kind of an underrated coach. Foles versus Brissett. I could kind of get in with this. A 44 over/under. I could actually see there being some sneaky amount of points here. I would just stay away with this until we find out exactly who the quarterbacks are. Bears at Rams. The Bears, Sean, the Bears won, as I predicted. The Bears won. Mitchell Trubisky outscored Jameis Winston in fantasy. Not that anybody had Jameis Winston as the start of the week or anything, Jamie. Over under 41. Rams are -7 in this spot, despite losing to the Steelers on the road. Ryan, what did you take away from the Rams this week, and do you think that they can cover a full touchdown against the Bears?
This is what I took away from the Rams this week in their loss to Pittsburgh. There was a point where Jared Goff came out. They brought in Blake Bortles, and after the game, Sean McVay said that was the plan, to bring him in on 3rd down and almost fumble the ball. So if that's where we're at in the Sean McVay experience, I think it may be time to reevaluate. That -7 is so completely and wholly disrespectful to Mitch Trubisky, who is now back in the MVP running. I think that the Bears are going to go in there and trounce the Rams. They may not trounce them, but here's the reality. The Bears don't start playing until after the half. We've seen that the last few weeks. But once they start going, they get things going. Last week was Dave Montgomery. This week it was Mitch Trubisky. And if you watch that Rams offensive line against the Steelers, they had no chance at any point to make any plays. They didn't score an offensive offensive touchdown. They had a field goal, a safety, and a defensive touchdown. The Steelers defense isn't nearly as good as the Bears defense. And I think as long as Mitch Trubisky wakes up at some point in the 3rd or 4th quarter, they should be able to win that football game. Again, the over/under, I don't want to touch it because there could be 9 total points in this game.
Yeah. I don't think there's a team in football the Rams should be favored by 7 points over. And I know they're at home. The Rams don't really have that good of a home field advantage. The Bears fan base actually travels pretty well. I would not be surprised if this is another one of those LA games where, the Bears fans outnumber the home team. And let's give credit where it's due. I know Ryan said sarcastically, Mitch Trubisky's back in the MVP race and all that. He's got some jokes. Trubisky actually played halfway decent football on Sunday. I mean, there were a couple throws. Admittedly, I looked up and I was like, that's not Mitch Trubisky. Who's that playing quarterback for the Bears? Did they CGI those throws? And so credit to him. The last couple of weeks, he's played well in the second half, as Ryan mentioned. And this Bears defense is not playing as well as they did a year ago. No one's going to deny that. They don't have Akeem Hicks. Danny Trevathan got hurt during this game as well with an ugly-looking arm injury. I would be surprised if he's playing. But this is the same defense that a year ago, in a way, kind of started that blueprint on how to beat the Rams. And Jared Goff had a nightmare the last time these two teams met. I think the Bears defense is still good enough to induce another nightmare. And look, neither of these quarterbacks are playing well, but if you're looking at who's coming off the better game, it's obviously Mitch Trubisky. Jared Goff looked terrible to the point where, as Ryan said, they put in Blake Bortles, and the next play, they had Johnny Hekker throw a pass. So I like the Bears to cover. I don't know if they're going to win. I probably like the under. I'm a little bit afraid, though, of a lot of turnovers in this game because of the quality of quarterback play, which, quite frankly, just not great.
In Jared Goff's defense, he was injured. So it's not like they were like, we got to have Bortles. He's better. But Goff did not look good, and he hadn't looked good, and his offensive line is bad. Look, the Bears defense has regressed. I mean, no one would deny that. Only a fool would deny that at this point. And most people would say, Brinson, you're right. Oh, the Bears defense did regress. 7's too much, though. I would take the Bears +7 here. I sort of thought it was a mistake or like a typo. It's already down to 6.5. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it closed maybe closer to 5.5 or something like that. I think that the Bears are probably fairly similar to the Steelers. And if you can get pressure on the Rams, you can really disrupt Jared Goff and make life ugly for him. And he's just not playing good football right now. Bonus game. One bonus game for you. Jets at Redskins. True story / fun fact. The freaking Redskins are favored, Sean. They're favored. The 1-win Redskins are -1 at home against the Jets, who just beat the Giants. The over-under in this one is 38. How exciting.
I'm guessing I'm not allowed to pass and decline commenting on this game. Look, you guys know me. I'm not a big Adam Gase guy. That said, I think I like the Jets in this game. I mean, we did see them on Sunday play a bad defense in New York, and they actually looked like an actual NFL football team. Have the Redskins actually pieced together one decent offensive game? So I think I like the Jets. I mean, I wouldn't touch this game. It's a fun bonus game for us to talk about, I guess, in theory. So I think I like the Jets. I would not touch it because I don't trust a single player on either side of the ball. I don't trust either coach. I think it's going to be a terrible game. I do hope there are points, though, because like the Jets-Giants game, at the very least, a terrible football game with two terrible quarterbacks, terrible coaches. At least it was fun. There were points scored. So that's my hope.
I'm with Sean. I have no idea what to make of this. I'm looking at our Football Outsiders, our good buddies, the Stats Nerds guys. The Redskins are 30th in offense, 23rd in defense. The Jets are 32nd in offense, 19th in defense. And then the special teams, Jets are top 5. The Redskins are 19th. So I'll say it'll be some rain and field goal by whoever the Jets kicker is. I think that's Samuel Fickens, perhaps. Maybe he makes the difference. I would not bet anything. I would not bet Sean's collection of brand new albums on this game, given Adam Gase and Bill Callahan could actually in this thing being a 2-3 football game.
Yeah, look, just don't bet on the Jets and the Redskins. Don't do it. You don't want to watch this game. You don't want to be interested in this game. I would take I think at first blush, I would probably take the Jets just because the Redskins are, I think, either the worst team or the second worst team in football. But I could see this being like ugly DC November weather, pouring down rain, Sam Darnold fumbling the ball over the place. The Redskins have a shot at the last second to try and win the game. And we got to see what the quarterback situation works out for Washington. But yeah, very potentially ugly game that you don't want to watch and you don't want to bet on. But if you must, just take the under. That's the way to go with these with the Redskins games. All right, that's it for us. Make sure to subscribe to the Pick Six Podcast on Apple Podcasts, wherever else you get your podcast. Click the little subscribe button. You'll get our Sunday show recapping all the games dropped in your feed, along with many other episodes throughout the week. Thanks, fellas.